Have you heard of cuckoo birds? They're nothing special, plain gray birds that you could mistake for pigeons. They have a nasty little secret though. They lay their eggs in the nests of other birds, and when the little cuckoo bird hatches, it crawls out of its eggs and shoves its temporary nestmates out of their home. It takes the other chick's place, and the mom's none the wiser. I've looked up to that example ever since I was a kid. It's hard being the twin who's less. My brother's always been Alan, the guy everyone wanted to know. It's just been Alan's weird little brother. Alan was the smart one, the funny one, the social one. I wasn't. For all my life, I felt like something's been stolen from me. Some part of my essence I can never get back. I'm not a whole person. There's so much power in a name. It took me years, an entire childhood, to figure it out. 2 syllables separate me from Alan. We have the same face, the same voice, the same lopsided quirk in our grin. We're the same person, but he's Alan and I'm not. All the power was in that name. I wanted it. I needed it. He was going to just leave me in this lonely little country town. Precocious little Alan going off to fulfill his bigger and better dreams. Bastard had gotten into an Ivy League college, and I haven't even gotten into the local college. Little old stupid me. Mom and Dad were so excited about him that they forgot to invite me to the celebration dinner. I didn't exist? Huh? That was okay. They wouldn't miss me when I was gone. I hid under the back seat of his car that night as he finally set off towards his repulsively brilliant future. I waited until we were all alone to make my move. He didn't notice the shadows moving behind him until it was too late. I strangled him with the length of fishing wire, struggling against him as he writhed like a snake, gagging, spitting, and coughing. I tugged harder and harder until his body went limp. His hand slipped off of the steering wheel, and I braced myself as the car swerved and crashed off the side of the road, cutting through a cornfield. I screamed in ecstasy the whole time, my hands still straining to grip the makeshift Garrett. When we finally rolled to a stop, I dragged him out of the driver's seat. He was still breathing. Good. I could have some fun with him later. I stripped him naked, changed into his clothes. Scrabbling through my pocket, I found my knife. It took a few seconds for the blunt edge to saw through his tongue. Spit and blood spilled out of the corner of his mouth, and I stuffed his underwear into his mouth to soak up the bleeding. I had to make sure he couldn't scream for help. Trusting him like the pig he was, I stuffed him into the trunk. I've moved into his dorm, haven't been living here for the past 2 months. It's so freeing, reinventing myself again. Alan's only a couple of minutes drive away, locked up in an old warehouse off in the industrial part of town. Sometimes I go visit him, and he tries to scream at me, but all that does is fling bloody spit across the ground. His words a mute buzz as the stomp of his tongue flails wildly. Sometimes he even scrambles to tackle me, snarling like an animal, but the thick chain around his ankle always catches him. I beat him with a whip whenever I visit him. It's hilarious how every time he screams in pain, it dies off into a weak little whimper. Every time I strike him, the leather bites into his skin, leaving jagged marks, blood dripping from the raw flesh. The last few days, I've been bringing him a little treat. What is it, you ask? Just a bit of drain cleaner, concentrated sulfuric acid. I've dripped it slowly, sensually onto the raw red marks on his back. If he moans quietly enough, I can almost hear his skin sizzling and scorching, acid burns nodding over his body. If only I could have gotten my hands on something a bit stronger. I like the new him. I like the way his body is covered in thin scratches from sleeping naked on concrete. I like the way raw whip marks dig into his flesh. I like the way he stares at me with pure hate, yellowing bloodshot eyes digging into my skin. I like the way he's wasting away, that perfect facade wearing away to reveal an animal underneath, one that pisses and shits on himself, one that begs for food and water once a week. It reminds me that he was never better than me. Only one of us could survive in this world. There just wasn't enough room for the both of us. One of us had to leave this nest, and I am the cuckoo bird, the perfect imitation, pushing the weak out to take his place. Tomorrow, the cops will find my sick, tortured, emaciated body chained up in a warehouse. Tomorrow, a new Alan will emerge into the world.